welcome back for our third in our Lent readings for 2021. And as we're following through the Old Testament books, the third day will be Leviticus. And I'm guessing Leviticus isn't one of the books that is read as much as some of the others. If we could summarise Genesis by creation and Exodus by redemption, we would summarise Leviticus as holiness. It is the instructions to Israel on holy living. How do you keep yourself holy and acceptable to God? And it's full of regulations. It says in the first chapter, these were given to Moses while Israel were camped at Mount Sinai in the tent of meeting. And you can read that account in Exodus 33 of what happened then. And so all the instructions were given. Now we have some Bibles, some New Testaments, where all the words of Jesus are in red letter editions as they're called. If there was such a thing as a green letter edition where all the words of God were written in green, Leviticus would probably be the greenest book, for it is all God's words. It is God's words to Israel. It says to Moses, tell Israel this, tell Israel that. So it's a lot of instructions. And the name Leviticus comes from the tribe of Levi. You'll know Jacob had 12 sons, one was Levi. Well, Levi, his descendants, the Levites, were given a special responsibility of organising the temple. Exodus tells us about the building of the temple, but Leviticus tells us about the role of the temple and how it was operated. And the descendants of Levi were given that role. And within that, the descendants of Aaron, one of the Levites, was given the special responsibility as the priests. So the descendants of Aaron were the priests, and the other Levites did all the things like they did the worship, they did the guarding, they did everything else that happened around the temple. When the land was divided up between Jacob's sons, the Levites were not given any land. They were given 48 cities, but they were given no land because they were to work the temple, not the land. Consequently, all the other tribes gave a tithe, which went to sustain the descendants of Levi. Leviticus also contains that verse in chapter 19, verse 18. Love your neighbour as yourself, which Jesus said was the second greatest commandment. So when we talk about holiness, it was all about approaching God. How do you keep yourself right to approach God? There was a great reverence and a fear of approaching God. I think sometimes we've lost some of that. But the high point was once a year when the high priest on the Day of Atonement would approach God. Go into the Holy of Holies. And that's the passage I'm going to read. So I'm going to read from Exodus 16 and that part about the Day of Atonement. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. On the 10th day of the 7th month you must deny yourselves and not do any work, neither native born or foreigner residing among you, because on this day atonement will be made for you, to cleanse you. Then before the Lord you will be clean from all your sins. It is a day of Sabbath rest, and you must deny yourselves. It is a lasting ordinance. The priest, who is anointed and ordained to succeed his father as high priest, is to make atonement. He is to put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement for the most holy place, for the tent of meeting and the altar, and for the priests and all the members of the community. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. Atonement is to be made for you once a year for all the sins of the Israelites. On that one day, the high priest and the high priest alone, that day would be, by our calendar, late September, early October, he would make sacrifices for himself and the priesthood and for the temple and everything, and then him alone would enter the Holy of Holies, go behind the curtain and offer a sacrifice, and that would be for the sins of the whole nation. Now we know the Old Testament sacrifices are all pointing towards the cross, and this no more than anything else, for What we see at the crucifixion is Jesus offering a sacrifice, and a significant thing is recorded, that when Jesus died on the cross, the temple curtain was torn in two, top to bottom. God tore the curtain. Why? Because the sacrifice of Jesus completed the system. The sacrifice of Jesus was so adequate that no other sacrifice would ever need to be offered for sin. And so the curtain was torn, the Holy of Holies was opened, and it meant that not just the high priest once a year, but all believers, as frequently as we want to, may approach God in praise, approach God in prayer. We don't need a atoning sacrifice or an interceding priest to stand between us and God. We can approach ourselves. That's the glory of Christ's sacrifice. Sin is removed, and we're invited to boldly approach the throne of grace. What a great blessing that is. Until next time, have a blessed day.